you've got a very interesting background as a nurse and as a former veteran as well.
Yes.
So you must have come across post-traumatic stress.
Yes. And I guess it could be important to clarify, I was a veteran many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess from that point of view, I was a different role. But again, going back that number of years, the military didn't necessarily recognise post-traumatic stress as what they do now. So things have moved on, and probably the previous names were battle fatigue or shell shock, and that's names that's been around since World War One and World War Two.
I think classically, don't we quite narrowly think about post-traumatic stress as being a war zone
Of
or
course we do.
dealing with
Yes.
stuff as you would at the hospital, but
Yes.
isn't it wider than that?
Absolutely, and this is where, if you ask any person how do they define trauma, it will depend on very much how that person sees what has happened to them, what is their unique story, and again, how trauma can look different things for different people.
And in this unsettled time that we're in at the moment, there's likelihood of it being on the rise, I would guess.
I would yes, agree that perhaps it's not necessarily trauma, because I think trauma has always been there in some shape or format, especially for many different people, but perhaps awareness is increasing, and of course that's one of the reasons why we highlighted it for Mental Health Day. Because I guess because of what's happening in the world at the moment with COVID-19, and it also coincides with the year of the nurse, then I guess it's about how do then the frontline people manage their roles when they face trauma day in and day out. And I guess it's about raising awareness of what the symptoms are and how to watch out for it, but also if you find out that you are actually experiencing it, what can you do about it?
When you're tired, which a lot of people have worked in the health sector in particular, around the clock when we had the outbreak on the Isle of Man, are you more prone at that time because you run down? Or is it not as simple to break down as that?
It's not as simple to break down like that, because I guess it's about working out when does it start becoming post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got something before that which is called acute stress reaction, and again that is a common reaction when you're dealing in trauma.
Is that recognisable though?
Yes, but I guess the symptoms are very similar, and this is where, I don't know if you're aware of NICE guidelines. NICE guidelines are the sort of a UK's governing bodies about how you treat specific illnesses, and this is where quite often, for diagnosis point of view, they will use a timeline. So this is where perhaps if someone's struggling in the first few weeks after a trauma, we wouldn't call that post-traumatic stress per se at that point. It's more when it comes out later, maybe years afterwards, because sometimes that's what happens in combat people.
Yeah.
Or this is where it's about the A&E nurse, or it's the ambulance man, it's the firefighter, it's the policeman. It's after longer exposure to trauma after trauma after trauma, so it becomes a little bit more complicated.